All right. So I'm going to say something really unusual to be in this class, which you're not going to hear from me anywhere else in this course, or actually any other topic I teach on Torah. And what I want to begin and preface the following discussion with is, what I'm going to tell you today, you don't have to believe. I'm going to be very clear about this. What we're discussing, if you turn around at the end of the class and say like, okay, that was interesting, I don't believe a word of it, that is totally okay. I'm not going to say that by any other part of the course. But in this particular topic, it's perfectly okay to say that. You are permitted to believe in it, you're not expected to believe in it, and you're not obligated to believe in it. I would be interested to hear those people who have heard about this topic, and the topic is reincarnation, or as it's called in Hebrew, Gilgul Neshamot.
Is it not in the Animamins?
It is not in the Animamins at all. It is not one of the 13 principles of faith of the Rambam. The Rambam does not discuss it at all. It's not brought up in the Rambam. It is not brought up in most commentators. It is, however, found among very prominent commentators, including the Zohar, including the Ramban, including Rav Choni ben Akana, who is the author of the Sefer Bahir. So the Kabbalists do talk about it. I have found, as I mentioned before, the Sephardi women love this topic. Ashkenazi women are whatever, you know. Either way, it's interesting. There are Torah sources which are referred to it in detail. There are certain mitzvot in the Torah. We're going to see that the rabbis say you can only understand if you understand this topic. We're going to see what those mitzvot are. Okay? So that's the caveat. You don't want to believe in this? No problem. Do you have to believe there's a God? Yes. Do you have to believe that Moshe Rabbeinu is the greatest prophet ever lived? Yes. Do you have to believe in Shemayim and Ganim? Yes. Do you have to believe in Schar V'Onesh? Yes. Do you have to believe that Moshe Rabbeinu was the greatest prophet ever lived? Yes. Do you have to believe Mashiach is going to come? Yes. All these are basic. Do you have to believe in Tchiat HaMetim, resurrection of the dead? Yes. Do you have to believe in this topic? No. Totally up to you. In Kabbalah and Chassidut, it is mentioned extensively. And in the commentaries on Tanakh, we'll see one of the famous ones today, it is also mentioned, helping us understand one of the most important and difficult topics in Judaism, which is the most difficult topic in Judaism, which is the biggest question everyone has is, nope, why bad things happen to good people? One of the roots and the sources of answering that question is found in this topic. Yes, Chloe. You're Sephardi, right?
Yeah.
You don't look it.
I know.
That's okay. My mother's a redhead too, which is also Sephardi. Yes, how can I help you? Are you excited to learn about reincarnation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, right there's a section in Shemona Esrei that's like that specifically talks about like resurrection of the dead or and like, but I heard that if you don't believe in it, then like. Okay,
Tchiat HaMetim is spoken about in the Shemona Esrei, and you have to believe in it. It's a principle of our faith. You at this point don't know anything about it, but in the semester you're going to learn about it.
So
this is not Tchiat HaMetim. This is not this topic at all. This is a completely different topic. This topic, which is called Gilgul Neshamot, is the idea, as we're going to see, that a soul enters this world in a body. The body dies, the soul goes back to Shemayim, which we know, and then is given the opportunity to revisit this world in a different body. That is I don't say controversial, some people say it is. I have this class in it before, some people get upset that I teach it, but the Mefarshim talk about it, the Vilna Gaon talks about it, the rabbis talk about it. Actually, we're going to see the entire book of Jonah, according to the Vilna Gaon, is actually one long story all about Gilgul of a neshama that comes back into this world, and the ship represents the body, and it goes into the fish. It's all different soul travels of the body. So the Vilna Gaon was, it was called the genius of Vilna for a reason. Yeah.
Can't it also not be people? Like, isn't there like an idea like a golem can
be like rocks and.
We're going to come to that. By the way, that is a very scary topic. I didn't include it in the book. And when I wrote my first book, and I mentioned a few questions on this, my editor from Feldheim said, do not include it, it's too scary. But today we're going to do it. And hopefully through it, I'm going to do tshuva. Because when I read this, ooh, it's scary. So if you like scary stuff, if you don't, you can leave for that part of the class. I will not judge you. But it's scary. Okay, let's begin at the beginning. Turn to page 21. With that as a preface to our topic today. So we already know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us a neshama. That is a given, and the soul is put inside the body, and it was blown into the guf, the body of Adam Rishon, if you remember all those weeks ago when we started our semester. And we know that eventually everything that living dies. All that lives dies, and so that happens too. Okay? However, we see there are sources in the Torah and prophets that some commentators, not all, some Mefarshim say, hint to this topic, this idea of Gilgul Neshamot, the reincarnation of a soul. Let's have a look in Devarim. It says that Moshe Rabbeinu blessed Ruvain. Now Ruvain was dead at that point, okay? He had since died, and he blessed him that he shouldn't have to die a second death. As it says in the Torah, Yechi Ruvain v'al yamut. Let Ruvain live and not die. Okay? This says Onkelos, the Aramaic translation of the Torah. Yechi Ruvain l'chai alma u'mus lo yamus. Let him live an eternal life and let him not die a second death. Say in the Mefarshim, what is Onkelos saying over here? Let Ruvain not require rectification of reincarnation, which would cause him to die a second death. Let him only have to do this once and not come back again, his neshama come back again in a different body in order to fix up this mistake that he may have made. So according to Onkelos, and those who understand it this way, this is the secret of reincarnation. There is a mitzvah called Yibum. Yibum. Does anyone know what Yibum is? Yibum. What's Yibum?
Isn't it when a couple's married and let's say the husband dies in war and then like technically...
So in English we call it levirate marriage. Levirate marriage. And we have, let's go through this together. We have a man married to a woman.
Then
okay?
The man dies.
Now he dies, okay? Yeah. So man dies.
And then, so if he has a brother who's not married...
Now he has a single brother. Okay. What's important about this first relationship? They had no kids. No kids.
He's technically obligated to
They have a mitzvah. They're not obligated. They have a mitzvah to marry. They have a mitzvah to marry. If they both so wish. What happens right after that? They have a child. Right? This brother over here marries this woman, and they have a child. And what does it say, the Torah? Let's have a look inside. Let's try to figure out what this is. Yeah.
Is there a reason for it?
We're going to try to say a reason for it right now. We're going to look at one reason for it. There's probably many reasons. We're going to look at one reason today, yeah.
Isn't it that the baby's like a reincarnated version of the father?
So that is basically what we're going to see. This dead, deceased brother, according to the Ramban, he says this, the way to really understand this mitzvah, you don't have to understand it this way, but if you want, you can. And he says it's all about Gilgul. Let's have a look. It says the following. Ki yeshvu achim yachtav. You have two brothers who dwell together. One of them dies, has no child. Right? The widow, what does it say? V'metzachad mehem ben en loy tiyeh eish hasameis hachutza leish zar yibama. Yavah leh v'lekach leishav yibama. He has a mitzvah of yibum, and they connect together. V'yah bachor ashetei led yakum al shem echav. The child that comes out will come for the name of the deceased brother. That's what it says. Asher Teled Yokum al Shem Echav Hamet, the dead one, the Lo Yimchashom Yisrael, and his name should not be taken out of Israel. That's what the Torah tells us. Tell me, Does anywhere there, does it refer to reincarnation? No. What does it say though? You have to take a name of the dead brother. Here's the deceased brother, and we're going to give it to the other brother who now is going to marry and one of the kids. So is the obligation to name the child after that deceased brother? From the Torah it seems so, but we don't do that. What do you mean we don't do that? If you look historically of cases of Yibum, the name is not used. Can anyone think of a very famous Yibum story in Tanakh? Who, what? Ruth, that's right. And who did she have Yibum with? Boaz. He was a relative. Okay. Was there a closer relative who existed? What was his name? Ploni Almoni. Some say that was actually his real name, and some say, when you use that expression, means Mr. X. Right? It's like, Joe Cohen or something, just like a random name. That wasn't real, something. No, that was a real name. And since he missed out on the mitzvah of being the father of royalty through Ruth to create David HaMelech and Shlomo HaMelech, he became Ploni Almoni, he became a Mr. Nobody. He lost his name. How what's interesting is when Boaz married Ruth, they had a child. They didn't name him by the name of the dead brother. It wasn't even used. Now that's going to be interesting because the Torah says you should. So maybe this name thing is not a reference to it. Says the Zohar, Kabbalah today. The Ear Raza de Google. This mitzvah of Yibum, if you understand it, is all about the mitzvah of Gilgul Neshamot, of reincarnation. That's actually what's happening over here. By the way, let's say they decline and they don't want to do Yibum. And by the way, today, we're not allowed to do Yibum. This is forbidden. If you were to have a situation, we have a man married to a woman, and he dies chasron before they have children, and he has a single brother, he's not allowed to marry. There's only a mitzvah at the time of Beis HaMikdash exists. Yeah. There's no Yibum today. But you got to get out of it. What ceremony is that called? Chalitza. Right? Chalitza is the ceremony. What does chalitza literally mean? Chalutz is to take off. To take off. What does she take off? The shoe is taken off, right? That's actually a specific shoe. And by the way, this mitzvah still exists today. There was a chalitza ceremony performed in NYC many years ago, even I think before I got there. I was too young. Yeah. It's a mitzvah from the Torah.
But it's also if we should have children.
Chalitza is if they decide not to be married together.
No, but even if the woman had children.
I don't believe. Is that true?
I mean, my aunt did it.
Your aunt did chalitza? Wow. And you were there? You saw the ceremony?
I was alive.
You weren't alive. Interesting. Wow. I thought only if they didn't have. Okay. That's what I believe. Why? Why do we take a shoe off? What is the shoe? Do we speak about shoes yet this semester?
No.
Okay, let's do a very favorite topic and throw it in here as well. Let's talk about everyone's favorite topic, shoes. What do shoes represent in Jewish life? If you understand that, we'll understand why a shoe finds its way into this mitzvah. What does a shoe represent?
Body.
Lots of money. I'm sorry, yes, the body is absolutely correct. Yes. Right. And the Chachamim tell us, just as the shoe, the na'al, the shoe holds the body, so to the body holds the soul. So the shoe represents the kli, it's the vessel that holds within it the guf, just like the body holds the soul. So let's look at a number of different occasions in Jewish life and the Torah where shoes present themselves. Can anyone give me some examples? Let's go through your great Torah knowledge to see where shoes appear or disappear, actually. Yeah, Mina. Kohanim, right? The Kohanim, right, do not wear shoes. They go barefoot. Correct. No shoe. Moshe Rabbeinu, right? Moshe had to take off his shoes. Where? By the snare, by the burning bush. He had to remove them. Why? Because Hashem was speaking to him in that place through the snare, through the bush. Right? The bush represented the Jewish people that were still alive, but they were on fire. But don't worry, they weren't being consumed. Okay? But he was told that this Adamah is holy land. Take his shoes off. Where else do we see shoes?
Is that Yosef or something? Like there was like a story of like how the shoes just like grew with them.
I'm not aware of that. It could be a midrash. I'm not aware of that one. The Jewish people in the Midbar did have shoes grow with them, though. That's mentioned, yeah. Very good. Wow. Most people I've never heard that before. That is absolutely correct. But there's a difference.
Doesn't he only take off one?
Wow! How'd you know that?
I took Yeshua last semester.
That's impressive. Wow, I'm very impressed. No one ever gets that. What did she just say? You only took one shoe. 1 second. What's going on over here? Yoshua, I'm very impressed, well remembered. Yoshua took off a shoe. And they learn it out from the missing yud. It says, Sha'al na'alecha meraglecha. Take your shoes off, Moshe Rabbeinu. And by Yoshua, it says, take off your shoe. This is before he went, the angel came to him, he told him, take off his shoe. 1 shoe. Wow. Good name for a book. 1 shoe, 2 shoe, 3 shoe. Expensive shoe. Jew shoe. Right, where else do we see shoes? And we'll pull this all together in a second. Yeah.
When someone passes away.
Right, when a person is a, what's that called? Avel, they're an avelut.
No, but also, well, when you're in
Avelut he comes off.
yeah, that also. But when someone passes away, you're allowed to give away all of their things.
Right, you shouldn't reuse the shoes, I've heard that.
You throw
I've never seen the inside right.
all the right pairs on one side of the town
Yeah,
and all
you
the
should.
left on the other.
Really? Well, you know a lot of stuff, don't you? I didn't know that. They just don't use shoes.
No, because
Like that.
that way, if you throw a pair of shoes in the garbage, someone might find them and take them.
Oh, I
Wear
see.
them.
So you
But you're not supposed to wear them.
I never heard that before. Very cute. Okay, very
I
good.
didn't know that in Avilu you can't wear your shoes.
You don't wear shoes.
I see people wear shoes.
The avel, the avel themselves, an avelut, right? For the shiva, the week. If they're one of the sheva krovim, that's father, mother, brother, sister, son, daughter, husband, or wife, chas v'shalom, they don't wear shoes. They wear slippers. They wear non-leather. And on Yom Kippur, right? Yom Kippur, one of the 5 inuyim, one of the 5 things that we take off the shoe. Yeah. Okay, can we tie this all together, make some sense out of this? Well, you should have figured out by now, right? What has this got to do? What's happening over here? And then we'll try to bring it back to Chalitza. Follow carefully, this is interesting stuff. The Kohanim, right? They are Goy Kadosh, they're a holy people. They're basically doing avoda. There can be no separation between them and the land itself. They become one with it, they connect to the Eretz. They actually get very sick, except full-time doctors, because the floor is very cold, you know, they weren't wearing shoes, they used to do their avoda barefoot, because they can't have anything interrupting, no physicality between them. Moshe Rabbeinu is standing by the snare. Hashem is talking, giving him prophecy, telling him about his mission. Take off your shoes. Right? The level of Moshe Rabbeinu's prophecy, the greatest prophet that ever lived. At that moment, he had to divest himself totally of his physicality. How do you represent that? Take off your shoes. Yoshua was a great prophet. No Moshe Rabbeinu. Shal na'alech b'raglecha is a missing yud. Only 1 shoe came off. Wild. Okay? Avilut, a dead person. A person has passed away. How do you represent the idea of this? It's also, you don't want to show too much comfort. There's a pshat level to this as well. But in addition to that, what you're saying is, I'm mourning, and there's a loss over here. Yom Kippur, right? There's also you want to afflict yourself, but there's another message here as well, right? That I'm at one with the earth, and there's no physical barrier between me and the earth right now. It could be said about this as well. Oh, Chalitza, what's happened over here? Oh, you don't want to marry and bring out a new child with the name of your brother, right? You've taken off the shoe and you've spat in it. You haven't allowed this new neshama to come in through your seed. You missed out on a mitzvah. That's the decision you made. Okay? That's what's happening over here. That is what's happening there. That's why we've got to move. That's why I said the Ramban. This is the Ramban on Torah. Again, the Ramban was the Ramban. Nachmanides, not Maimonides. He's talking about Ramban. This is big stuff. He says, Aval ha'inyan, this idea of Yibum, Sod Gadol, this is his commentary on Torah, by the way. Sod Gadol Misodat Torah is one of the great secrets of the Torah. B'toldat Adam, for the genealogy of mankind. V'nikarhu, and it is known, le'enei roim, for those who see. Whatever that means. By the way, you know, the Ramban was one of the great, probably the last great, real, true Kabbalist in Jewish history. Okay, the Arizal came after us, but the Ramban was. Asher Natan Lahem. We're on page 22, note 4. We're reading the Ramban on Bereshit. Hashem gave us, Hashem Natan Lahem, Hashem, Enaim L'rod, V'Eznaim L'shmo. Anything you see or hear, this great secret, V'Maskil Yavin. He goes, those who understand, understand. By the way, that's what the Ramban says when he says a very Kabbalistic topic. And when we read it, we're like, I don't understand. But the Ramban did. He says this is the secret of it. Okay?
So you can't explain it?
He could, I can't. He says somehow this whole thing of Yibum, of bringing a new child in, is actually taking the neshama of that original deceased brother and bringing it back to the world. He says the shame is not a reference to the name because the name was not passed on. So it can't be that. It has to be the neshama, the soul of this person is coming into this world. Yes.
So this girl in our seminary, unfortunately, her brother-in-law was nifter. Like a few months later, her sister realized that she was pregnant with this child, and she got pregnant like right before he was nifter.
I've had a few stories like that.
Could that like be a gilgal? Is it like, does it need to be through Yibum or like?
I don't know.
No.
And then the baby was.
It's his actual child.
Before he was
Right. I don't know. Could be. It could be.
What does that mean?
What does what mean? Say what? I said it could be. Oh, niftar has died. Niftar is to die. From the word, where niftar come from? Patur. What's patur? Exempt, because when you're dead, you're exempt from mitzvot. Niftar is patur from mitzvot.
Wait,
Okay.
I have a question. I don't understand.
Shh, sorry, Ashkenazim. Could you ask us something?
I don't get this whole concept because if the man dies, it wasn't his fate to die. Like, why was his, you know?
So you're asking a big question. You're asking a big question. We don't know the answer to that question. We don't know how Hashem operates the world. Why he has to impregnate. Why he has to get married to him. They have to be married for a short amount of time. Maybe his sins led to it. Right? Maybe something terrible happened to him.
But how could they say like they missed out on a mitzvah to have kids? 'Cause if, like,
They have that's the living brother, right? They have a mitzvah. The Torah. This is one of the 613 mitzvot in the Torah. It's not rabbinic. The Torah is saying this should happen. We're just seeing the Ramban's understanding of it and the Zohar, and they're saying really what's happening here, and this is the only one that makes sense. It can't be the name being passed down. Why are you marrying a sister-in-law? It doesn't make sense. It's like a random thing. No. Somehow, by the way, why can't it be a best friend or a cousin? Right? It could be the best of brothers. And they say, I think I brought it down over here, that somehow these two brothers share something that father and brother don't share. Let's say the father was single. No, it's got to come from two brothers. They say it's, whatever this means, you're drawing from the same pool with two brothers. Don't freak out me now. I know you're right now, you're overdrive. Okay, let's keep going. Let's look at a piece of Zohar. It says at page 22. I know it's Thursday, we'll learn Kabbalah Erev Shabbos. It says, Pakad avon avot al banim. I keep in mind, the Torah tells us, the transgressions of the fathers for their descendants. Al shleishim v'arbaim. Third and fourth generation. That's what the Torah says. Hashem holds on to the averos of the fathers and passes the children, the grandchildren, 3-4 generations. Now there's many difficulties with this passage in the Torah. You're not punished for your father's sins. You're definitely not punished for your grandfather, and definitely your great-grandfather. So there's many ways to understand this passage. The pshat way to understand it, the basic way, is to say the following. If you follow and continue the sins of your fathers and grandfathers, the same sins, you're punished for that. But if you break away from your father and sin, you're fine. And that's basically how we understand that verse, in short.
You are fine or it makes it better?
Hmm?
You are fine or it makes it better?
You're fine. If you break away, you're fine. You're better. You've improved yourself. The sins of your father, whatever they did, if you follow them, there's a certain compound fraction, right, that's being accumulated over here somehow, and Hashem will revisit the punishment. It's going to be passed down. Okay, that's how they understand it. But that's not today's class. Today's class, we're going to go to the Zohar. And the Zohar says, check this out. He says, I'll do it in English because it's in Aramaic. There is one tree, right, one soul, many times people are referred to as trees, right, even in the Torah, which is planted in the body once, twice, 3 times, and 4 times, and is punished for transgressions of the first incarnation. The Father, the Son, the third, and the fourth generation are not referring to different people, says the Zohar. If you want to take it, you don't have to. He said, I'll tell you what's going on over here. You got a neshama inside a guf, and that neshama does not fulfill its mission. It's then given a chance to come back in later generations, within the same family, we're assuming, and they get a chance to fix it then. If it doesn't, it dies, it comes back again, and again, and again. That's the Zohar. Okay. Now, Eov was greatly suffering in his life. Right? The book of Job is the famous book of suffering. What's fascinating is that many of his friends came forward with reasons why he's suffering. Okay? And this book is considered to be the classic of, tzaddik v'rala, righteous people that bad things happen to. I'll tell you what's interesting. One of these brothers came to him, friends came to him, and gave an answer which actually he didn't respond to. The others he argued back. This one he just accepted. Right? One of his friends. And what was that? That maybe the suffering you're going through, based upon this piece we just saw, could well be a previous life that you were in. So one of the possible answers, and none of the answers are good, because we don't know the reason why bad things happen to good people, but one of the possible answers to the question of why bad things happen to good people, and you do not say this to a person who's suffering. Right? Eov asked for it. But you don't go to a person who's suffering and say, oh, in the last life, blah, 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 blah. You don't know. Hashem knows, only God knows. But the commentators talk about it. And they say it could be that in the previous life, something happened to you, and you had to come back into this world and go through this tikkun in order to fix up what had happened to you in a past and previous life. Okay? Which takes us to this. The Arizal, in his introduction to Shar Gegulim, this topic, says there could actually be three possible reasons why a person is reincarnated in this world. Okay? And I brought it down for you in a second, we'll see in a moment, and then we'll jump to Eov. I jump to Jonah and the Vilna Gaon, because the Vilna Gaon uses this to help us understand the book of Jonah. He says 1, 2, 3. This is the Arizal in his introduction, which I brought down for you. He says three reasons. 1, past mistakes. A person makes mistakes, and they have to come back a second time, third time in order to fix them. That's one possibility. Which, by the way, is probably what I'm doing here. I'm thinking about it right now. Because this is not my first time here. I messed up many times before. That I know. Number 2 is to fulfill mitzvot from a past life that you couldn't do, for whatever reason. There was a mitzvah you could not do. Right? It could be because of your gender. It could be because of something that happened to you. Right? That you weren't able to fulfill the particular mitzvah. So Hashem allows to come back to fulfill a mitzvah. So one is to remove past mistakes, past transgressions. One is to fulfill mitzvah you weren't able to. The third one, anybody want to guess? This is a running joke with my wife and I. We're crazy like this. What could be the third one, do you think? That would be a past mistake. That would be a past mistake. But there's a great book my friend gave me, I can't remember the name of it, that goes through all the characters of the Torah and explain where they come from. There's very famous ones. They say Hillel and Shammai are originally Gilgulim of Moshe and Aaron. Who was who? Hillel was Aaron. Ohev Shalom, Rodev Shalom. Right, that's Hillel, right? He was Mr. Mr. Friend. What was Moshe Rabbeinu? Din, judgment, gives the Torah. You've got to follow the Torah. That's Shammai. Right, let's say. They even talk about the donkey of Bilam, who that's a reincarnation of the whole thing. It came back again as another donkey many years later. There's stuff written on this. Yes, you want to guess this one? Yeah, number 3.
Is it to help others with the mitzvah?
Very good. Help others.
Isn't that a Christian idea?
Is this a Christian idea? Why?
That our purpose in life is to help others.
It's a very Jewish idea, helping others. Why is that a Christian idea?
I don't know if that's what they believe.
Yeah, they get it from us. We believe it's good to do chesed to other people. What we're saying over here is something a little bit stranger. What we're saying here, it could be, it's the Arizal, I would never say such a thing. It could be that a person actually has fulfilled their mission, is perfect, and comes back to help others, like my wife, by annoying her, and helping her reach perfection. She's not buying this, by the way. But that's what we try. That's what he says.
I don't necessarily believe that the main purpose of life is to help others.
Yes, the main purpose of life is to do mitzvot and help others. That's exactly the main purpose of life. For all of us. Mitzvot bein am l'chaveiro. Help others, don't judge other people. Oh yes, not take revenge, don't bear a grudge. It's all bein am l'chaveiro. Yes, to perfect your mitzvot. That's something else. Everyone has their own unique mission, but the way we do it is through mitzvot bein am l'chaveiro. Yes.
What about children that live for like a couple weeks and then die, or like a couple days?
Thank you so much for asking that question. This is the question I've received and this class, and I've asked many, many times, and the question I always get is, well, let's start with an easier one. Not easier, but let's say if children come to this world, how do we, Jews, view people who don't have very good mental capacities? A Down syndrome baby. What is the Jewish view on such a baby? Do we believe, like some societies, like the Nazis, Yimach Shemam, who said these people are a drain of society, right? Or like the Greeks, right? You can't do too much with them, and the Romans, put them in a little jar, put them up on the mountain of the babies, and let them die of exposure. Is that the Jewish view? No. What do we say? So check this out. Check this out.
Wasn't there a rabbi that like stood
The
out?
Chazon Ish
Yeah.
was in his study, and the story is told, and a famous story here in all the yeshivas, and a woman walked in with a Down syndrome child. And when she walked in, he stood up. Generally speaking, rabbis of that caliber do not stand up when you walk into the room. Right? People stand up for them. He stood up, and they thought he was standing up for her or something. And she asked that question and left. And the students asked, why did you stand up? And he said, because the kid was here. And he said, so what? He says the following. He says, it must be that that child is a holy child. Why? Because his mental capacities are not as great as other people. They're just not. Okay? It's a disability. Right? So what is that? An extra or lacking chromosome, whatever it is. Right? There's something chaser with this child. It must be, so listen to this rationale. It must be that in a previous life, this child perfected his mission and was very, very great. How do I know that? Because now he's entered into this world and he can't do too much. So it must be his mission is much, much smaller. So the neshama of this child, and that's how we see these children are like all soul, right? See down, it's full of love and simcha and light. It's like they're like pure neshamot, you know? There's no anger. They're just, so it must be in a previous life they fulfilled their mission and they come into this world, right? And they live a disabled life because they're so holy and so special that they don't have too much to produce. So you must deal with the holy soul. See how we Jews look at them? The same. You don't tell that to a person who has a child who's Down syndrome. And chas v'shalom lo aleinu. And you definitely don't even suggest this to a person who loses a child. But again, because it's an emotional topic, and this is a kind of rational thought we're trying to attach to it. But according to that, and I'll tell you a personal story about this as well. It could be that a person loses a baby, chas v'shalom lo aleinu. We shouldn't know such things. They say such babies are kadosh, right? Why? Because they didn't have too much to fix. Just existing in olam hazeh is a tikkun on the neshama. It fixes the soul. Just being here for a moment, right? Just being alive. Now, people lose children, we shouldn't say these things to them, but it's there in the back of our minds, and it's spoken about. My wife, she should live and be well. We are blessed with children. After our third or fourth, I don't remember now, she had a miscarriage, right? Which in the frum world is common because 1 out of every 4 statistics is a miscarriage, and from people having a lot of babies, Baruch Hashem, right? So, and it was difficult, but okay. So I called my rabbi. It was Erev Shabbat. He was my rabbi, gave me speaking. Now the Rabbi of Gateshead, Rabbi Zimmerman, and I called him up, and I said to him, by the way, my wife had a miscarriage. And he said, I'm very sorry to hear. And then he said to me, you should know that even as a fetus, that's considered to be, to some degree, in Olam Hazeh, and that was a special neshama, had to come to this world for a short amount of time and leave. Personally, I found consolation from that. Am I saying everyone will be consoled by that? No. It's not there for consolation. This was my conversation with him. So, do not shout at me, right? But I needed to hear that, and I'm pleased he said that to me, that it wasn't just for no reason. Just come to this world, even in the form of a fetus. The neshama kind of the world, there's some kind of tikkun, just being alive. That's why life for us is so precious. We don't pull the plug. We don't pull the plug because even being alive, even if you don't have sensory abilities, a person's in a coma. Why don't we pull plugs? Everyone's pulling the plug. Right? Everyone's aborting Down syndrome babies. That's like 1 million a year or something, or aborted in America. And we Jews say, no, that baby's got a right to life. Okay? If it's a road death on the mother and she can't handle it, or physically, or something else. We're not against abortion. Right? But stum, because it's not true, we don't do it. And there's a guy in my old community who couldn't have kids. Don't ask me how he did it. He adopted 5 Down syndrome kids. 5 Down syndrome. I remember I was at the bar mitzvah of one of them. Imagine that. It's like mind blowing. He's a special neshamot. Can we say, oh, that's what it's for? I cannot prove anything I'm telling you today. I'm saying what Chazal say. That's all I can say. And we're in good standing. The Vilna Gaon understands the story of Sefer Yonah as involved in this idea. And you should read about it. It's in the library. I think Art Scroll translated it. His commentary, it's a thin book. Right? Before Yom Kippur, we read on Yom Kippur. Right? Read this book in English. It's fascinating how he says the whole story of Yonah, although it's a true story, is a metaphor for the journey of the neshama. Right? That's how the Vilna Gaon understands it. It's allegorical. As the neshama has come to this world, it boards its vessel. That's the body. Right? The ship. Right? Jonah goes to is the guf, is the body. It goes through this world. Right? Then it tries to flee. It tries to avoid its mission. Right? And jump off board to get away from its mission. It then gets swallowed up, meaning it dies, it passed this world, leaving its task unfinished. What happens then? Hashem came to him a second time. He says, go to Nineveh and arise. And he's sent back to earth to find it. He says, you understand the story of Jonah? It says the Vilna Gaon. It's all Gilgal Neshamot. Right? Into this world, back out, in, out, in, out. Shake it all about. So why do we need this thing called reincarnation anyway? What purpose does it have? Let's finish this off today. Always a lot more. May I take 2 classes for this? Wow. We did a lot. So we did our result. That's the bottom of page 23, 24. For 3 reasons. And it could be a person fixes past mistakes. Right? It could be people achieve a level they couldn't get before. You know, there's an interesting question about the Kaf HaChaim. I saw this inside. He actually says, is it possible for a male to come back as a female or vice versa? Can a male come back as a female? So he brings very interesting proof for this. Now listen to the halacha. You know that if a man walks into a cemetery, he has to tuck in his tzitzit. Right? It's called lag l'rash. Because by walking around the tzitzit, you're making fun of the dead people, because they can't do a simple mitzvah like tzitzit. So it's not polite to do it. So you tuck away your tzitzit. So when a religious man who wears the tzitzit out goes to the cemetery, he's told to tuck them in. Let's say he says, the Kaf HaChaim says, that he walks into a cemetery, there's only women in it. So then these women didn't have the obligation to do mitzvah of tzitzit, then he shouldn't have to tuck in the tzitzit, right? He says, even then you have to tuck in your tzitzit, even though somehow you found a cemetery with only women in it. Why? So he says, because it could be one of the women there, in that life they were a woman, but in a previous life they were a man. So it's still a problem of lag l'rash, you should tuck in your tzitzit. Because a man could come back as a woman. Some say not vice versa.
It's always the same neshama, but in different.
So that's the answer. Neshama is not like a body. Neshama is like a drop of water. Right? It can split into different pieces. Really, there's only 600,000 actual neshama of the Jewish people. The rest we share and get passed through history.
Because like in the cemetery example, if you're going to, like, whenever you go visit, right, the neshama comes.
Well, the neshama is there. There's an element of the neshama that exists.
It could be a different neshama, but the same.
That's what he's saying. That's what the Kaf HaChaim is. The Kaf HaChaim is saying it could be that in a previous life, this was actually a male neshama, which became a woman neshama, and in the past life it was a woman. But actually the neshama is a male one, and therefore tucking your
But it
tzitzit.
could be a different. I don't know what you're saying. It could be a different neshama, but it's so what's reincarnated?
It was a man. The man died. It goes into a woman. The woman is then buried.
The same.
The same neshama is being passed down, but it's a male neshama. Yeah. What?
Like back to T.S. Mason.
Yeah. who gets to come back?
Yeah,
I don't know.
like, did it come back as the original Bilbo, or like?
We'll see that some of the commentators actually understand Mashiach that way, yes. The last one, the most recent one. Yeah.
How do you say that? How do you say that? How do you need is related to the reincarnation of male to female? Like Sephardim, I know it has to be tucked in, Ashkenazim has to be tucked out. Like,
No, that's different. No, just in a cemetery. Everyone, if they have a tzitzit out, Ashkenazi Sephardi, irrelevant, have to tuck in the tzitzit, walk into a cemetery. In a cemetery only. That's halacha. You should tuck in your minhag. You should tuck in your tzitzit when you walk into a cemetery. That's what they say you should do. He's just trying to find. He just found a related point to it. So what's the purpose of reincarnation? Yeah.
Are there like Jewish neshama and non-Jewish neshama?
I asked
Can
that question.
you come back as a non-Jewish?
I asked that question. I've never received an answer on it. You have to speak to someone about it. I don't know. I've asked that question. That's a great question. Now that's a great question. Converts. So there is an opinion. Check this out. You know, Avram Avinu and Sarah Imenu made many nefashot, many souls. They converted people. Did those people become Jewish?
They're not considered part of college yet.
They didn't become Jewish. Who became Jewish? The descendants of Avram and Sarah, through Yitzchak and Yaakov. What happened to the thousands of nefashot that Sarah Imenu and Avram Avinu taught? So they say they just disappeared and they became God believers, and we see God belief in the world is coming from them and their descendants. You know what they say? Others say no. Sarah Imenu actually breastfed a lot of babies, right? One of the ways she proved that she was actually the mother of Yitzchak. Those childs come from those neshamas, and it cannot be that Hashem just let them go. He says that in future generations, they actually came back, and that is the root of converts. Converts are the original souls that are reincarnated many generations later from the time of Avram and Sarah Imenu. Isn't that wild? What, these people just disappeared? No. That's why you speak to any convert, and I've spoken to many of them. Actually, I'll be at a tevila of one of my students who's converting next Thursday. And you ask any, why did you convert? They never, well, it's because of, it's like, I just had to. It's just, they never have a good reason. One of my rabbis is a convert. So why did you convert? It's like, it's a soul thing. Right? According to that interpretation, it's part of that original desire. Yeah. Oh, we've run out of time. Yeah.
So, are you just by your theories and all of this? So in general,
This is my theory. I'm just telling you what Chazal say.
Yeah. In general, like just thinking about right now, how individualistic are we? Are we just past souls that have come back? Like at the end of the day, like we're just taking on a personality of someone who's passed away. And that's because, like, for example, if you see a person who just doesn't have good mido, can you correlate that to one of our past avo or somebody like that?
I hear you, Sarah. I hear. I don't know what to say.
Is that a possibility? Is anyone like
Absolutely, it's absolutely possible. Yeah, absolutely. I heard there was a story. One of my rabbis was a rabbi. He was born in India, and he said there was a guy in his synagogue, very great rabbi actually, and he said there was a guy in his synagogue who couldn't do anything, but he would always answer Kaddish. And that was known by the rabbis back in India that were like this kind of stuff. And he said, this is going back in the day, he said, must be a soul that never said Kaddish and had to come back to do that. That was the mission. Yeah.
Back to what you were saying about like a miscarriage. What about this, like, I don't know, like a stillborn baby who
It would be the same thing.
who
Absolutely.
within the Shabbat technically
Has come into this world. It exists for a short amount of time. It must be a very holy soul.
the baby is dead.
Must be a very holy soul. We should know such things. But again, and you never say this to someone who's going through such a thing. But it could well be. That's what they said to Eov. Your suffering is because of past lives, and he went through that, and we don't know. Only Hashem knows. But the one thing we do know is that if it is true, Hashem's cheshbon is shalem, is perfect. Hashem knows what he's doing.
There's one rabbi that said that,
That is a hideous and detrimental thing to get from.
where did they get that from?
I don't know. Maybe some people talk. I've never seen it inside. I know people say it. It's abhorrent. I'm telling you, the Chazan Ish, and he says these are holy people who go through suffering. It's a sign of Hashem loves them, and maybe they're fixed up from the past life. You cannot say. So we do not say that. I know that rabbi. I know one particular rabbi goes around saying these things to scare people. I don't believe it. Right? Hashem loves every person. What she just said. That it must be that these are evil people, and we don't say that. We say we're dealing with is a tahor neshama. We don't know why, and this must be something special. And when a person suffers in this world, it's a sign Hashem loves them. That's what Sefer Yeshar. We learned that Motzei Shabbat. Remember, Sefer Yeshar says that if a person suffers, HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves them. It's a sign that Hashem loves them, which is the exact opposite to what that rabbi says.
But why?
Because when a person suffers, they improve their midot, they become better people. And Hashem loves people to improve themselves, so Hashem is helping them.
Point behind that, when someone suffers, yes, I can agree that, you're testing a person to, their extent, their capacity. Every person, when they're dealing with a very stressful situation, that's when you see their true colors of how they're going to treat
Or their
people
true
around
ability
them.
to become great.
Right, but necessarily when people are born into this world, what's the necessary purpose?
It could be a previous life, they had to go through something, but that means right now, they're fixing something small. That means, by the way, if a person comes into this world with amazing talents and abilities, can you imagine what their mission has to be? Let's say a person has a great math brain, and they use it to, I don't know, gamble. Right? They've wasted a great talent. I mean, there's a flip side to this as well, nachon? A person has a great ability and power, and they use it for destruction, and like, oh, unfortunately, I'm an idiot, so I don't have so much expected of me, but for most people, that's fine. Okay, so we're not going to finish this today. Finish it next class, yes. Shoe discussion, yes. We still have 2 minutes, guys. No, I didn't, no. He misunderstood. We said Moshe Rabbeinu was told to take his shoes off at that moment at the burning bush. Because at that moment he was reaching a level of prophecy. He could divest, he could remove from himself, right, physicality. The shoe represents physicality. He wore shoes.
Wait, what I'm saying is, in a spiritual environment, like
Right.
shoes is right?
Right.
But when we're dominating, we're not supposed to see our feet.
So nowadays you wear shoes when you daven. And Yom Kippur we take them off. But you wear shoes when you daven. But the Kohanim, when they sort of,
I thought we just wear left.
on Yom Kippur, we're just taking your shoes off. Leather means you're going shoeless, same as being shoeless. We see that as not having shoes on. Yeah, you with me?
I'm saying nowadays we adopt the custom of just we're showing shoeless without
On Yom Kippur.
on Yom Kippur, but
The rest of the time we don't. We're not on, it's not Holy Soul, we're not the base of Migdash. Doesn't exist, we don't. We wear shoes when we daven. Actually, you must wear shoes when you daven for that exact reason. You're obligated to wear shoes, except Yom Kippur. Yeah, I believe so, yeah. I think so.
Like I understood all of the other, like what she's representing all the examples, but I don't.
So Chalisa, I said, according to that, it could be that the shoe represents the guf. You didn't give the ability of that deceased brother to come into this world. Right? So you've taken the body and you're not allowing the shoe, you spit in it. It's disgusting. Spitting represents a disgust of something. All right. My brain's full. Didn't take much.